Good evening and welcome to CellarPass TV. We are live from Napa Valley today. So if our studio looks a little different, now you know. We are so excited to have Boeger Vineyards with us tonight. They are fantastic. If you have not visited the El Dorado County area and the El Dorado wine region, you are missing out. It is truly an absolute gem of wine country, and it is located up in the Sierra foothills. So tonight we have the wonderful Justin and Eileen Boeger both to share with us about their winery, their passions, and 3 incredible wines that we're going to sample tonight. So without too much further ado, let's welcome Justin and Eileen. Hi guys, how are you?
Hi.
Hi.
Hello from El Dorado County.
Hey, hello from St. Helena, California.
Oh,
Cheers. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing really well. It's been a couple of warm days here, sunshine in the vineyard, but not too warm. We're not seeing any signs of bud break, so that's good.
Yes,
Yeah,
and it's
excellent.
been worrisome enough. It's just a little bit too warm for the vineyard's liking. Anyways,
Yeah.
Now of course with coronavirus and not being out of the tasting rooms indoor service, I'm thinking this is a good year for a drought year and no rain. It's helping us out that way. But it's,
Of all the times you're like, yeah, I think a drought would be great this year.
yeah. And we've got our wine, so that helps.
That does help. So tell us a little bit about the winery and your family's history. You guys go way back into like gold rush time. So
yeah, right. I mean, it's kind of twofold. My great grandfather started a winery in Napa, 100 and whatever years ago in 1890, Nicolini Winery, a little teeny little place. And my father had spent his summers helping the vineyard and a few falls crushing grapes, and that got it in his mind that he wanted to go into the wine business. So he went into UC Davis and ended up coming out and starting his own. Actually, he didn't actually take a wine degree then. He was international ag development or something.
Right.
But he decided to go into the wine business, and he and my mom quit their jobs at the state in 1972, and they bought our property up here in El Dorado, which there were no wineries at the time. Prohibition kind of knocked it out, but they had found out that El Dorado had been one of the largest grape growing regions in the state during the gold rush, because of everyone was settling here, and you got to sell wine to the miners. Whether you're striking it rich or drowning your sorrows, it was a good business. And so our winery is on the site of an old historic winery from the 1800s, and we started it up in 1872. We're the first winery post-prohibition, and I grew up in it. Worked for room and board, as my parents said, and then after high school, I ran away. I did go to UC Davis because I figured, it might be neat. You have to write an entrance essay. So I thought, I'll write this nice little essay about how just wine is in my blood. I didn't have any intention of actually doing wine at that time. I just wanted to get away from family. And I took my first wine class. I realized I really liked it. And at some point I realized, wow, maybe I could actually be good at it. And I realized, wow, if I want to go into the wine business, I'd be stupid not to go back and work with the family. So I did some internships in Germany, came back, and several years later, Eileen and I met, and we didn't like each other very much at first. But once she realized she could get cheaper wine, family discount, she agreed to marry me. And that's all a lie, but
I'm a meteorologist. Yeah, so he also flies small planes, and so we got talking about weather and then wine, and it just all clicked. And so we have 2 little girls, and so hopefully one of them will become a 5th generation California winemaker, since Justin is 4th.
Or not. I'm not gonna pressure them at all.
No, but we'll see.
My mom told me I didn't have to go into the wine business; she'd just sell the place. So
and that broke.
No pressure. No pressure.
An encouraging thing, but I think it was actually I took it as a threat. So. So here we are. This is my 22nd year back at the winery, and my dad is still heavily involved in the vineyard. My mom is mostly retired. She just oversees QuickBooks and calls me anytime the payables are too high or the receivables are too low. And I'm doing mostly the production side and and then the overall stuff. But yeah, it's great now.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. You guys have such a great story, and your property, oh my gosh. I mean, it is truly stepping back into history, into time. You're just like the homestead and the blacksmith building, all of it. I mean, it's so magical. And I've really enjoyed visiting over the years. And I know your faithful clients who have been reaching out, asking about the show, and they've been getting, so they've been eagerly waiting tonight, are also happy to tell me that I have to go visit. Absolutely do. So, we've got some really, really dedicated fans out there, and it's just because of, your beautiful property and your hospitality and, of course, your fabulous wines. So cheers to you guys.
Well, thank you.
And since we're cheersing, why don't you guys tell us a little bit what we have in our glass?
All right. Well, this first wine we have is the 2019 Sauvignon Blanc. We actually just bottled the 2020. It needs to sleep in the bottle a little bit, so it's not ready yet. But the 2019 is... it's just classic Sauvignon Blanc, but it's a little bit different in the terms of, I have never liked the sort of weediness or grassiness you can get from Sauvignon Blanc. Right. Probably because I don't want to imply that I was drinking underage, but I grew up with a Sauvignon Blanc like my dad made it. And he always blended Semillon in, which is pretty traditional, but he also blends in a grape called Flora, which not everyone knows about. It's a hybrid. It's a cross between Gewürztraminer and Semillon that was developed at UC Davis. I'm called Flora because it does, to me, impart a sort of floral character to the wine. It certainly softens it up a little bit. And so we blend that in usually in the range of 6 to 10%, along with the Semillon, to just take the herbaceous side of Sauvignon Blanc out and make something that's a little rounder, but it still has great crisp acidity that that comes from we grow it. We have 2 vineyards, one up at 3,000 feet and one right at the winery at 2,200 feet, and so it maintains a lot of good acidity, which just makes for a nice crisp wine. And I tend to like to make it just really on the drier side. It has a touch of RS, but I definitely like my Sauv Blanc on the drier side.
Oh, and this is definitely a stunner. I do want to welcome our fantastic rock star sommelier, Chris Sawyer, into the mix here, so we can get his feedback as well. Hey, Chris, how are you?
Hey, everyone. I'm doing great. I've got a bottle of this goodness right in front of me, everyone, and it is so divine right now.
It is.
Just watching you, I mean, the great thing about my relationship with this family is I go back way into the 90s when I first started writing about wine, before I became the sommelier, and getting to know Greg and Sue and Justin and the whole family has been such an amazing voyage for me too, because I learned so much. And it just reminded me so much, Justin, when you brought up the Flora, that last time I was there, I was with your dad right near the blacksmith area, and he pointed down at the Flora and wanted to talk all about the Flora for a while. And the Flora is such a great thing, being a UC Davis graduate myself. These things that we invented at Davis are pretty cool. But I think that really aromatic touch to it, really, that's what sucks you into this glass, is actually the aromas. And that's, really what makes Sauvignon Blanc so great, is it just has this aromatic ability to do things. And really, it's almost like you're out there, and Justin, I mean, you know this as well as anyone, you're almost out there just trying to pick that grape and put it in the bottle immediately, because it smells so good, and you squish it in your hands and you take a big whiff and you're set. Oh my God, this is so great. What do we do? Oh, we got to make it into wine first. Oh, okay.
We got to make it into wine first. We can't wear it yet.
You've done such a great job with this. And, when I think about that area, especially as we go into springtime and into summertime, it gets warm up there. We talk about a little bit more about what makes the area so great, because it's warm. Don't get me wrong, but it's those breezes at night that are the magic of what really happens up there. But I think that really during the day, I mean, this is exactly what you need in your glass. And also, I think the food culture, how food culture has moved along. We now eat fresh food. That's just what we do.
Right.
I mean, you guys live up on Apple Hill. I mean, this is like an area where it's like bounty of fresh ingredients everywhere where you guys live. And it's really, it's just special, because it seems like you're biting into a crisp apple when you take a sip of this. And it really, that little pear note and the citrus is there. And there's these little kind of fresh herbs on the background. Yeah. Everything's great inside this glass. I'm loving it.
I'm really glad you mentioned the aromatic part of it and trying to put the grape straight in the bottle. There's something I've been trying to capture for 22 years now. And every year when we're fermenting this wine, it's like we've just, okay, I have to turn it into wine first. We put it in the tank, and about halfway through the fermentation, I'll be walking in the back around the tanks, and I feel these, get these aromas of banana.
Yeah.
And there's banana aromas that come out, and I'm just like, where is this coming from? And I remember the first time I smelled it, I tracked it down to the Sauvignon Blanc tank. I said, this is so great. But every year, by the time it's done, the banana's gone. And maybe it wouldn't be good.
It's a brief trip to the tropics.
Yeah, yeah. But
it's not that tropical. I mean, because that's that whole style that's very tropical. And you did bring up some of the grassiness, and we're not even talking about cat piss and other things that you just
thank goodness.
There's also another one too that really blows me away, and I have tricked some people on this one where it does smell like asparagus, and I asked the person, am I going to pee this smell because I ate asparagus? Am I going to pee it? Oh, I don't know, so I mean, there's the fun of it, but banana is a very interesting token there, but it doesn't taste like it at all. I mean, there's
so that the tropics just go away and we're left with a nice citrus.
Kind of comes and goes.
Yeah.
What I'm getting at, I mean, they're aromatics. I mean, okay, we all agree. I mean, it's so captivating, right? But I just envision your pear and apple trees bloom, and it's like that's just transported me right there, like such a wonderful, wonderful feeling.
Yes, that Asian pear, the Asian pears from the orchard right there near the blacksmith shop, close to the old homestead.
Yep.
This is what it reminds me of. A little bit of that smell and that taste is that Asian pear, that very sweet but soft, but still has a bite to it. Still has enough of a crispiness to it.
Sometimes you wonder, is it really, are the roots touching somehow?
Yeah.
Well, it's so cool mentioning the acids. And when Eileen and I were first dating, we did a little experiment in the lab where I spiked a white wine with some of the different acids you find in wine: malic acid, lactic acid, and then also citric acid, to see how the different acids make the wine taste. And it's funny, many of you already probably know that, the malic acid, the Germans call it apple acid.
Oh.
And of course, there's a lot of malic acid in Sauvignon Blanc, so it smells like
there.
Maybe there's a little more from the proximity of the apple trees.
I want to give a quick cheer out to Laurel Robinson, who I just saw she posted up, and my great friend from the Telluride Wine Festival. Great to see your name on here, Laurel.
Laurel, thanks for joining us. And cheers to everybody who's joining us tonight. We've got quite the audience. I mean, it is amazing, and the chatter's already happening. A lot of hi to Eileen and Justin from everybody. But I'm really impressed to seeing how many people all over the country have joined us tonight. I mean, it is so cool. So everyone at home, feel free to keep chatting and ask your questions, because we definitely want to answer them as we go along and have a good time here. And Linda from Atlanta, she's a diehard. She meets us here every week. She's amazing. So really excited to see that she's here tonight too. Let's talk about food pairings. I mean, because that's what we do. I'm getting, with these flavor profiles, I'm thinking like, I would do fried chicken. You get that nice fatty goodness out of the deep fry and the skin, but still not too too light. You're gonna, the acid in the wine is gonna help cut that. And I was also thinking, because it is, after all, February, crab cakes, fresh crab cakes.
Yeah. I like that idea.
Yeah. For dinner before the show, we usually do it before the show just because we go on at 6. We had pad thai that my wife made, and it was so good. It had a little bit of prawn and a little bit of chicken in it, and I had this with it. It was the green beans and everything in there that we're working with it. I think another good one as we get into spring that really I love with Sauvignon Blanc, and this one definitely stands right there with those great Sauvignon Blancs that I would pair it with. Just a split pea soup, but chilled. So do the chilled one that you're having at lunchtime. It's chilled. Just kind of sets a whole. I think that Sauvignon Blanc just sets the tone for it's either the evening or it's the day or whenever you're drinking it. It sets the tone because it's got energy, and I feel like this freshness in this glass is very reflective of what you can really pair it with as far as food is concerned.
Yeah, I could go with a light fettuccine with maybe a little bit of like a butter cheese sauce, somewhat of an Alfredo, but going with your spring theme there, Chris, with maybe just a little bit of fresh peas in there, maybe a little bit of prosciutto, but keep it very light. I think that would complement very well with this.
And my favorite thing to have with the Sauv Blanc is a nice cheese and nut plate.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Of course, I love I like to just start and sit on the patio once the weather's warm and have this Sauvignon Blanc with a variety of cheeses and a variety of nuts, and that's kind of my go-to.
Yeah, we just have a sharp provolone tonight, and it's a hard cheese, but it has a little bit of softness to it, and we're like, ooh, that probably would go really well with our Sauvignon.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
not super, gritty like a Parmesan or anything, but just a little bit smooth, a little bit of that salty taste to go with it. I think that would go well. Maybe we'll have it after.
I think another one too, just to end off there, would be like a really nice spring salad with goat cheese. And also maybe we do a little roasted pear with it, just a light, maybe even just sauteed pear, and throw it on there. So you've got all this stuff going on. But I think goat cheese is a really great, just especially because the acidity will cut right into it. So
Producer Jonathan coming in here.
There's our Vanna White. Look, everyone.
You can't go wrong with Sauvignon Blanc. It's, often used as, kind of the reception wine, kind of getting things started. So talking, the cheeses and appetizers, those sorts of things totally make sense. I always think of what would I pair this with? How would I serve it? What kind of entertaining side of things? And I just see beautiful spring tablescapes, the cheese and light bites, and even those crab cakes. And I know I've made a lot of people hungry already.
I know,
but I do little ones, as an appetizer, so it's easy to eat. But I just, this just takes you into a place where it's like you just want to relax. You're thinking sunny day. It is a little bit of a vacation in a glass. So I'm really, really digging this wine. And you do have some comments. One was, when are you guys going to have a white wine only club?
It's so funny. Every time we've asked, nobody wants the white wine only. And I mean, not nobody, obviously, at least one. And I would love it because I think white wines are so often underrated or overlooked. And, I did my internships in Germany in the Franconia region, where they are known for their dry whites. And I just fell in love with the dry white wines. In fact, I fell in love with it so much, I came back. That was right when I was done with school. And I told my father, I said, Dad, we've been making that Riesling way too sweet. We've got to make a dry Riesling. He said, well, yeah, it's a great wine, but it won't sell. I said, no, you got to let me do it. He said, okay, you make it and then you sell it. And so he let me make it dry. And I just remember right up to the day of bottling, I was sure I was going to catch my dad dumping concentrate into the top of the tank to sweeten it up. He didn't, but it was an excellent wine. But I'll tell you what, it didn't sell. It took like 2 years to sell through.
But I think it's a goal of ours actually to maybe plant some more white varietals. Yeah. We have the white Pinot Noir, which is you're not going to find that everywhere. And that is a perfect patio sipping wine. It has the body, it's a red grape, but yet we make the white wine out of it. So it really can hold its own. It's just a beautiful, beautiful wine.
And we are going to be modifying our club to have different levels and different groups. It's something we're just in the process of going through. So a whites only club is not out of the question. And we're getting to have more whites available. We're known for reds, but I personally, it's just funny, this has come up in the last couple of years. I've just been deciding, I need to plant a few more whites and make a few more white wines to really show the variety of our region, which, everyone thinks, you mentioned earlier, of it being a warm region, but most people don't know about the cool spots in the region. And I want to plant some of these cool region varieties in there to really highlight that for people who come up.
Yeah, it's just a really special area. I mean, we talked a few weeks ago about Clarksburg, and what Clarksburg, why it's good, and that wind from the Delta just comes in and it's going to cool down, and we know that from going to Clarksburg and having all these great times there. But when we're up on the mountains, it's a very different thing because you're kind of a little bit cooler than the lower areas during the day, but it's not that much difference. It might be a 5-degree difference from what it is in Sacramento, kind of like the Roseville kind of area. That's kind of the hotter part towards the base of the mountains. But then as you get up there, I mean, especially in the late afternoon, those breezes come and it just shuts down. And there's what we call a big diurnal swing. So it really has a nice 85, 86 degrees, perfect, but it's going to drop into the 60s pretty fast up there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Chris, we've got what we've found over the years that we've got in our, how the region, how hilly and mountainous it is. And we've got all these little bowls where, you know, you're in a ridge top and it goes down, and in the summer when we have the air inversions and that cold air comes in pools in these bowls, and we have the, you know, these little, I mean, it's like jumping into deep down in the pool. It's cold at the bottom, and then the ridge tops are really warm, and it's really allowed us over, gosh, we've been 48 years now, I think, really tailor. You know, we'll have an acre of something here, and that's something else that's kind of unique about El Dorado is you don't see huge acreage to one variety because the climate really varies over a short distance, and so we've got, you know, 1 acre here of something that's a cool region variety, and then not a quarter mile away, we've got a warm region variety on a ridge top, and it just makes for a great, you know, ability to make a lot of wines, which is also a logistical nightmare sometimes. I always in the cellar, I've got 30 different
when it comes to harvest, it's probably
well, I think that's a big point that you just brought up, that a lot of people, some people know it, some people don't. You guys have like 30 different varieties. I mean, your dad kind of went
the Baskin Robbins of wineries.
Yes.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I think that when you got there, it was really the Mission grape and Zinfandel was growing in the mountains. There wasn't really, Cabernet wasn't even around. Barbera, not really. I mean, Calaveras and El Dorado, actually, it kind of skipped over Amador in the old days. We're talking about the 1860s, 18 to about the 1880s. The biggest growing areas in California were, number one, believe it or not, everyone, Los Angeles area. Oh, whoa, crazy. Yeah, basically where all those big towers are, that's where it was grown. They're not there anymore. Sonoma County, and then these two areas up there, even more than Napa Valley. You know, and so you start thinking about it. It's when the, you know, the gold miners got out of, they were sick of actually being down there in the mines. And they got out and they said, you know what, these people have to eat and they have to drink, and we're going to do this, and we're going to grow grapes, and we're going to do this. And Mission grape was the grape of the region. It was already here, but Zinfandel came in, and it was a very long progression until we really went where we're at today. And just the fact that you're talking about, yeah, maybe I should plant some other ones. We wouldn't have even been talking about this, you know, 20, 30 years ago, especially back in 1972 when your parents started the winery, you know.
Yeah, and the options are really limitless. What you'll find if you've ever visited the winery, and if you haven't been here, you basically take this long drive down to the homestead property. And when you look out onto the hills, it looks like a patchwork that just folds on itself. And what you're seeing are the vines planted in different directions for sunlight, for soil, and for different climates. So it's really, you know, you don't get the wide expanse as far as you can see, just one direction of vines. You have like this patchwork, because they work with the climate and the soil to make it work to grow all these different 30 varietals of grapes.
Yeah.
And Eileen, tapping into your meteorologist days, what was the temperature today?
Today get up to about 60 or so at the airport, which isn't too far from here. So we're probably in the low 60s here at our vineyards.
Very nice. Well, there you go. Now we all know. Just getting some questions in there. And Matthew, your baked brie sounds dreamy. Oh my gosh. I would have never thought of putting maple bacon and kumquats in that. That's
wow.
I know. That sounds great. We do want to get on to the Barbera. It's that time. And while we're switching over, you know, I'd love to hear everybody's feedback at home, what you thought about the Sauv Blanc. And would you give it a 1 to 10 rating? You know, let's see how you rate that Sauv Blanc. I personally give it like a 9.5 because I'm really hard pressed to give anything a 10.
And I'm not sensitive, so if you give me a poor rating, I'm not going to cry. I got over that early when I first started working. They sent me around with my sales guy, and I got to hear the brutal feedback from some of the buyers out there. I got over being sensitive about wine really quickly.
All right, so we know that I give it a 9.5. Chris?
Yeah, I give it a 9.4. I think it's right there. It's right on the border of being a gold, double gold for our judging. Yeah.
Excellent. Sarah Wong gives it an 8.
There you go.
Right. So still high scoring. And Eileen and Justin, you got to score your own hard work here.
It's like choosing a favorite. I'm really proud of this vintage of Sauv Blanc. I think I really like it. I'm proud of it. So I can't give it a number, but I'm proud of it.
I'll give it a 9.5.
Yeah.
9.5.
Like,
right? We're writing that.
For improvement. You know, what are you going to do? So yeah, 9.5 is my score.
Mary's got them. Mary's giving you a 10.
Very nice.
All right, Mary.
So absolutely beautiful. Sarah's a red wine girl, so she's like, that's the only reason I got an 8.
Well, and you know what? This Sauv Blanc, I have to say, if somebody says, well, I don't like Sauv Blanc, they might be thinking of the more grassy or like New Zealand style. It's like, give it a try, because it does have just that roundness to it that's not so in your face with like grassiness and weediness. So try it.
Right.
Great.
All right. So now we are moving on to your beautiful 2018 Barbera. Yum. And already the crowds are going wild. I can see it. The chatter's like.
Well, the Barbera is definitely our flagship wine. That's what we're most well known for. If someone only knows one of our wines, it's usually Barbera. Yeah. It's personally one of my favorites. What I should say is it often is in my top. You know, I like them all depending on my mood and what the weather's like. I like different ones every day, but the Barbera always ranks up there. I love Barbera because I think it's one of the most underrated wines in terms of its ability to pair with a wide range of foods. And it's kind of the wine I bring when I don't know what's being served, because I go, okay, this is going to have the best chance of pairing with some whatever is being served.
Nice.
We've been making Barbera since 1976. We didn't have our own vineyards till the 1990s, but in 1976, my dad found an old vineyard out in Placer County. It was an old own-rooted Barbera vineyard. There were a few other varietals out there, Carignan and Grenache, I think. And the guy's name owned it was Dr. Toy. And I remember my dad bought some, and I opened up a bottle of that 76 Barbera. And back then, my dad made all the reds at like 12% alcohol. So that the Barbera, you know, it probably couldn't have been drank for the first 3 years. But I'll tell you, when I owned it about 4 years ago, it was, I mean, I didn't have high expectations. It was over the top. So that kind of started his love affair with Barbera. And we made it off and on from various places for the years. In the 80s, we came across this vineyard here in El Dorado called the Ritchie Vineyard that had been.
All right. Well, we'll give them a second to get back here. There we are. You're back.
Yeah, we missed you for one moment there.
Oh, well, that's the sign I've been talking too much. Anyways, so we started in earnest in the mid-80s. We made some really good examples early on. It was usually pretty highly rated. That sort of, and back then there were only a few producers, and so that kind of got our foot in the door, and it's just stuck with us ever since. I love it. It's our largest production wine, but it's great because I source some fruit. I grow most of it ourselves, but because we have so much fruit to go in it, I get to ferment. We ferment little 8-ton lots, and so we might do 60 or 80 tons of Barbera in a year. But because of that, I get to have, 6 to 10 different tanks that I use a different yeast in each tank. I do a slightly different treatment on each tank. And in the end, I keep most of it separate. It just gives me this whole palette of Barbera, but each one is so different that I get to, play with it in the end. And actually, sometimes it's a little overwhelming. It's like, oh gosh, it's just, there's so many combinations that this is good for this reason. This is good for another reason. It's always hard to settle on the final one. I usually bring in everyone else to double check my work. Like, am I making the right choice here? So I love it. We age it for usually about a year to 16 months. We use I didn't mention this. Well, now we're talking about reds. I have a very light hand when it comes to oak in my reds, new oak. I mean, they all go into oak barrels, but we make 15 different wines or so, red wines, out of the 30 different red varieties that we make. And I kind of have this philosophy that if oak is the predominant character or the first thing you notice in the wine, then all those 15 wines are going to taste the same. Not quite the same, but you're going to notice that oak. So I always have it way in the background. I really love, I feel like the Lorax of grapevines. I want the wines to speak for themselves. And so I want, when people taste this Barbera, I want them to know this is what Barbera grown in Aiken clay loam soils in El Dorado AVA tastes like. And it's different from if I did some vineyard designates just 4 miles away. We've got a different soil type, slightly different exposure on the hill, and those wines are night and day. And when I've got the 15 wines we're tasting, all Barbera grown within 5 miles, they are night and day different. And so anyways, then I like to be light-handed on the oak. I want people to know that this is Barbera, or when we get the Migliore, this is what the blend of that is. So I love it. You can tell I'm proud of Barbera, and I love
a little bit. So
I am
tell me, on a family game night, what wine are you pouring yourself?
Right, it's Barbera. We were talking about El Dorado and the uniqueness of growing here, and back behind us, if it was light out, we'd be able to point out our window and you could see some of the Barbera out there. And then there's a vineyard that, as the crow flies, is, you know, a third of a mile, but it's all the way on a ridge top right here. You can see each of those vineyards, and that one up there is going to be warmer at night. And it tends to have that fullness. It gives it that fullness character, the Barbera, whereas the estate grown closer to here sits on a little bowl, so it gets that cooling effect in there, so that the acidity comes up. So it's really an interesting thing when you talk about growing in the foothills, how you can use elevation to your advantage or just make it a unique wine, because you can add those different elements.
Yeah, and it's also
the same varietal.
Yeah, and it's also, you know, Barbera is typically known for being high in acid. And because of the different vineyard sites I've got, and I use a few different clones of Barbera also. And because of that, I've got some Barbera that is actually lacking in acidity, which it's practically unheard of. And it just makes for a great, it allows me to tailor a wine just how I want it to be.
Yeah. Well, it is definitely beautiful. I know why it's become your flagship. But kind of talking about your property and where you're located, we talked about the topography with, the different, hills and, peaks and valleys. But a lot of people don't really know where El Dorado wine country is. And, I think they'd be surprised to hear, A, how close to Sacramento it is. It's really accessible. And you guys are also just a stone's throw from Tahoe. Yeah. So it's a really great, place to, pop in, on your way up to Tahoe, spend a good afternoon there and then head up and enjoy the lake or skiing or whatever it is you're going to be doing. But, don't just go blazing through the Apple Hill area on your way to go skiing. Stop, pick up some wines, because you're going to need it for après-ski anyway.
Yeah.
And but it is, it's one of those gems. I have really come to love your region. All of the wineries just have such a warm, down-to-earth feel, and the people are just genuine. You're not getting any snootiness whatsoever, and the wines are out of this world. And of course, you guys are kind of like the absolute crown jewel in that area. I personally, I might be biased, but I love that you guys have stayed true to the architecture and the period of which your winery was born. So many other people could have easily come in and been like, get rid of this old stuff and, build something new. And that would just be a travesty. And you haven't done that, which I just think, builds, the character and also just kind of shows, how near and dear it is to your heart. So
I spent a lot of time working at my great grandfather's old winery too, because my dad and some of his cousins actually bought it from the family and ran it for 20 years before we sold it back. And the newest thing when I was there was from 1950. And I really got used to working in antique situations, like climbing into 5,000 gallon redwood tanks with little manholes that are, I don't know how I got through. But it's that history is it really feels like it's part of everything that's there. There's some of the original vines are still there, and actually some of those mission vines you were talking about. There's someone who loves the Milagro. That's our Spanish blend, Graciano.
Coming up, don't worry. That's coming up next.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I do
hear everybody's feedback on the Barbera. Barbera. How what makes you love it so much? Also, if you have any fond memories and things that you love about the property itself, tell us about it. We want to hear your thoughts. I do want to talk about food, because we don't do dinner yet. We always do it after the show, so I'm starving the time I do the broadcast. And what's great about online shows is you would never catch this kind of commentary on anything like real on cable or networks.
Well, I'd love to comment on the food first, but before I get there, I want to make one other comment. And so, I've been following this brand for a long time, being a writer since the 90s. When I was at UC Davis is where I started, and I've gotten to follow the brand and everything that's been going on. But I will say, driving into your property is one of the coolest things ever. And it's because of all those swells and how these angles differ. And I want to say a big comment here on behalf of my great team, my fellow judges at the state fair. So a few years ago, we gave this family the highest credential, the State Fair Lifetime Achievement Award. That was in 2018. The following year, we got to, I was there on the bus going into the area, and believe me, we drank a few wines on the bus and everything. But the minute we went through the gate, everyone shut up, because they got to behold what this property is. And it changed everything for that evening for them. They were there in a special place. And I will say that other great people like Mary Edwards was there and got an award that night on your property, and other great producers that got awards there. But they just were so amazed. It is a magical zone, and it's really special. So that's why I think that these grapes that you work with so well really were meant to be there. It's just kind of both ways that you've done such a great job. And Mark Chandler, the great Mark Chandler, who I know is watching tonight, who is head of the state fair, and the judges, and me being one of them, really can't thank you enough for everything you've done for El Dorado County, and especially El Dorado, the appellation, which is part of the county, not the whole county, but part of it. And that was founded in 1983, an amazing accomplishment. Where it's gone since then. And I think this Barbera is exactly what we're talking about, where California culture has gone. We've gone to a different level with food. And I think that, Eileen, the picture I saw on your two things on your Instagram that I loved today when I was checking out your new post was your one shirt that says barbarism.
Barbarian. Yeah, that's one of our wine club members, Barbarians, because we love Barbera.
That's so cool.
That's the cool shirt. I want one next time I come. Besides that was your Coco Van pairing, where you guys were just eating one night and Coco Van, and you pulled out a bottle of this, and that just made me hungry. It made me, just the picture on your Instagram is so good. It just shows exactly what this wine can do. And you brought up a great point there, Justin, too. Acidity. Acidity is what makes a wine great. If you don't have acidity, you can't even cook with it. And that's why this is such a great wine to go with such a wide range of foods, especially meats and all sorts of sauces too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a bolognese might be good with this, like a lighter bolognese.
You're stealing my Migliore pairing.
Oh, stop. Sorry.
Absolutely. Or mushroom risotto is what I
was.
Yes, that earthy characteristic of mushroom. I think umami flavors go really well with this Barbera.
Yeah, and the Coco Van has the mushroom in it, has that simmering tomato and wine. That recipe had 2 cups of Barbera in it, just simmered down. And we paired it with some local fresh baby broccoli that is from a local organic farm that's around the corner from us, 24 yards. So we hit them up for fresh vegetables. We pair them with the wine and cook with it. And that was, I have to say, a stellar meal. I had it over spaghetti squash from the farm, and it was just like soaked into there. That Coco Van, that very, kind of umami taste with the chicken.
The rich, sauce. I mean, you don't even call it, it's not a broth. It's like just coats, everything. And it's actually one of my favorite dishes of all time.
Yeah.
So, I often will make it, out of the blue, like middle of summer. I'm like, you know what I need right now?
And it's better every day after. If you
it is. That's probably one of the secrets is you make it the day ahead and serve it the next day, because it does all the flavors develop. It's fantastic. What else did I was thinking? Roasted vegetables, or maybe like a ratatouille, for our vegetarian friends. So you're really going to get that depth. And I think the char, when you roast, the vegetables, that caramelization, really going to pick up the flavors. And I definitely see some really great chatter coming in. I love it. And
Barbara Fulton, who's just commenting right here, she also is celebrating her anniversary. So happy anniversary.
And she's going to change her name to Barbera.
Yeah, she wrote that. That's so cute. Or Barbera, should I call it?
So good. Oh, figs. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
And we love it that you love the figs. People, I always feel guilty. I see people picking them off the tree like, oh, should I be doing this? Like, please take them, because they just rain onto the ground everywhere. They form this sticky mat that we're always cleaning up. Even though we eat them every time they're ripe, we pick them and make these prosciutto wrapped figs grill on the barbecue. But, look at that, grilled cabbage. So I mentioned grilled cabbage. We just started doing it. We just did it last night.
Yeah. Yes. the fig trees, we have to note they're original to the homestead property. So there's what, 4?
Oh, there's even more now, but there's like 4 to 8.
4 big ones that you would notice right by the old homestead house, right by the blacksmith shop. And they're just this big, majestical trees that just, like you said, rain down figs come August and September. Usually they get 2 pushes, and it's just a magical time.
The largest one fell down 2 days before our wedding.
Let's not talk about that.
And I was convinced my mom had cut it down. She didn't like the way it looks, but that wasn't the case. It actually just fell down. It was 100 years old.
Well, you've heard it here. So in the fall, visitors who book your enchanted evening are obligated to take a bag of figs home.
Yes.
Have a fig party.
We should give a discount for people for every pound of figs you take.
Wow, that would be a great deal. I'll be up. You just have them with pork and things like that as a side on the same dish, or do them in salads, and they go great with a little bit harder cheeses or tangier cheeses. One of the great ones that Michael Chiarello in Napa used to do, this crazy thing where he'd stuff this fig with a roasted almond and then do the wrap on it. But you can do bacon, you can do all sorts of things, and it's so good. I love figs.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan of figs and blue cheese or Stilton. You just get that tang from the blue cheese. It's so good. But I do want to talk about your experiences. And so I kind of nodded on the Enchanted Evening experience that you guys have been offering, which is, in my mind, probably one of the only ways to enjoy your property, at least one of the best ways. So tell us a little bit about that and when we can expect to hopefully see some dates coming along.
Well, likely in the next month or 2, we should have some of the musical guests booked and everything on its way. We had a little hiccup last summer just because we weren't allowed to gather like we normally do. And we, for years, have been doing sunset sipping. For how long? 10, 15, 20 maybe.
15 at least. Yeah.
So we used to call it sunset sipping. It happens every Friday, and it's where everybody can just gather, kick their shoes off, put out a blanket, sit at a picnic table, enjoy some live music underneath all of the old trees and by the old pond that's original to the homestead and in front of the homestead house on this lawn area, this picnic area. And it is 100% enchanting. It is really just magical. Strung lights, those white lights, the music is going. It's a carefree evening that you join with friends and toast to the summer night on a Friday. We started calling it Enchanted Evenings last year because we had to kind of pare back on how many people we could welcome. So we made it by reservation. So once those reservations are open for what we now call Enchanted Evenings or Sunset Sipping, we'll certainly let you know via email blast. So if you want to join our email list, that'd be great. Go to bogerwinery.com and you'll make sure that you know firsthand of when you can make those reservations with us.
And you might get to meet the winery dogs too.
Yes.
I know. Sorry. Maya chases off the coyotes in the vineyards here. That's her job.
Totally fine. That's what they're doing. They're doing their job. It's so cute.
Chases the deer out too.
Yes. Chases the deer, the mice, the coyotes, all of it. And the Enchanted Evening, I know when I saw it pop up last year on our site, I was just captivated. I'm like, this sounds incredible. So again, definitely keep an eye out. You can check back on CellarPass.com as well.
Yeah.
We send out our weekly newsletters. So we'll definitely feature those as they come up. And another great experience you guys have going on is Woga.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah.
Wine and Wellness series. Folks love this. I think it's been going on. I think last summer was the 7th or 8th summer we had been doing it. So basically on Sunday and Saturday mornings, we'll gather at 9 or 10 in the morning out in the old orchard in between all of the old apple and pear trees. At this point, the winery's not open, so it's very quiet. You can hear the birds chirping. Mm-hmm. And we welcome in a yoga instructor to do 90 minutes of yoga. And it's followed up by a glass of wine, and you're welcome to stay and nibble on the apples or pears if they're ripe. You're welcome to, come and kind of do a little late breakfast brunch picnic with a glass of wine after yoga. It's really a wonderful experience because it lets you take in the winery at a different hour than you're normally being there. And it's a great workout. And then you get to kind of kick off the day with that, feeling of togetherness, doing yoga with friends or family. It's really an awesome experience.
That sounds really, really cool. And I hope this summer to get up there and partake in it. Because
yes, it's super fun.
So fun. Oh my gosh. And definitely some people picking up their member packs next week. So are there any figs left? Wink, wink. I think.
Yeah, they aren't out yet. I think June when they first come out.
Yeah, and then August and September.
Yeah,
midsummer. Yep.
All right, it's rate that wine time. So I don't know. I have pretty strong feelings about this one. It's going to get some high scores. I think somebody already gave it a 20 out of 10. So you got that going for you. Chris, what do you think?
I'm going to give it a 9.7 out of 10. I just went the East Meets West wine competition. We had some amazing Barberas in there, and next week we start the San Francisco Chronicle competition, which is the largest in America, and we're going to have a lot of great Barberas in there too. And I think it's really what the Foothills are getting known for. I mean, you guys you set the precedence for it, and others have come along, but this wine is exactly what I want from a great Barbera. It has all that depth, and it's got everything going on. It's got action. So it's not like a dead wine, like where it's just like, oh, that's big, that's tannic, that's everything. No, it's got tons of flavors. It's so energetic. It fills your mouth with joy, pretty much. It's pushing it to every single area there. The finish is awesome. It's got that little teeny bit of bitterness that makes you want more, which is genius. It's just it's magic in every sip. That's it. 9.7 from here. Yeah. Wow. Here.
I'll and Beverly's giving it a 10. It's the best Barbera out there, bar none. So.
That's awesome.
Fantastic. Oh my gosh. So here we are. We're coming up to kind of our last 15 minutes. So it is time to get into the blend.
Yes, the Migliore.
Yeah.
Migliore.
Just saw Bill Wagner.
Oh, Bill, yes. I was Bill Wagner. I like to call him my dad's oldest friend. Bill, if you're listening, I know you love that joke. You've heard it 1,000 times. He's been friends with my dad since they were kids, and he helps out every harvest that I can remember, including our first harvest. And so he's just great. I'm glad you're here, Bill. Where are we going? Oh, Migliore. So I got that's when I heard Bill's here.
Uncle Bill is our kid's
Uncle Bill, they call him. So the Migliore, I'll tell you the name first. We make a bunch of blends, like 3 or 4 blends from the different meant to represent all the old world wine growing regions. And so we have the Meritage. Everyone's familiar with Meritage. It's for Bordeaux. We've got the Milagro. Someone mentioned earlier. That's for Rioja region of Spain. And then we've got the Migliore, and that's for Italy. And when we were looking at it, we went all at this M, everything's starting with the letter M. Migliore, apparently if it's Il Migliore in Italian means the best. But we didn't want to be too arrogant or conceited, so we just called it Migliore, which is better. And I don't really speak Italian, so that's my understanding. Could be wrong. For true Italian speakers out there, please correct me. But anyways, it's Migliore with the soft G, unlike the hard German G of Boeger, which is funny, though, because lots of times, just not to get too sidetracked, but sometimes people think our name is French, and they say, oh, Boeger, I love Boeger. Rather than contradict them, I usually just say, mais oui, je suis Justin Boeger instead of Justin Boeger. Sounds a little better. Great French winemaker. Anyway.
So Boeger is definitely German.
So we'll get into Migliore. Migliore is my absolute favorite wine of all the wines that we make right now. And this particular vintage is probably my favorite vintage in a decade of Migliore. It is, matter of fact, it's got enough in there. I have to double check the percentages with my fact sheets here.
Because it's different every vintage.
It's different every vintage depending on what each of those grapes taste like. This particular vintage is 42% Refosco, 25% Charbono, 18% Aglianico, 13% Sangiovese, and then just a little 2% of Cabernet. We often blend a little bit of Cab in, just like everyone else in the world, right? Add a little bit of added structure to it. I love Refosco by itself, but I've always found it to be by itself just a little simple, needs a little something. It makes a great base. The Charbono always has great, we put that in mostly for color. It also is generally matures up here at a lower Brix level. So when I have enough of that in there, I get color. I get some low acidity to tone down the overall acidity a little bit and bring the overall alcohol level down. Aglianico, on the other hand, is the opposite. It's spicy and tannic and big. We put that in there for some backbone. And then the Sangiovese just adds that. The Sangiovese, our Sangiovese, has a very unique character to it that it's hard to put into words, but it's kind of that magical something that you can't describe what it is, but when it's in there, it just makes the whole wine pop together. It's almost like maybe the blood.
So going to your French roots is the je ne sais quoi.
Yes, yes.
yes.
If anyone can tell me how to say that in Italian, that's what.
Tell a story about how you found out about Refosco and I think it was in Venice, was it not?
Yes, right. My dad had been growing Refosco, but he had always just kind of we were doing it as a varietal, and it was okay. It was a nice simple wine. And when I was in Venice, it was with the Zinfandel advocates and producers, and I was a member of the board and working with all the big Zinfandel names out there, Rosenblum and Renwood and Ridge. Yeah. And a bunch of others. I shouldn't have even named any because I might offend my other compadres that I used to work with. I'm not saying them. But so we were. I was just there at a restaurant. I asked the Somm at the restaurant, "Hey, could you please give me your best example of your local wines here?" And he came out with this Refosco and Cab blend. And just like when I was in Germany and fell in love with dry white German wines, I fell in love with this Refosco Cab blend, and I came running home. Dad, we got to make a Refosco Cab blend. Why aren't you blending other stuff in with this? We got to blend it. So that's, I guess I probably shouldn't take credit. My dad probably was already going to do it, but my memory is that I caused him to do it. But so now we blend it every year, and every year it's different. And this one is just my absolute favorite. We age it for 24 months in barrels, so a little longer. Part of that's due to that Aglianico needs a little more time to tone down. We don't make a lot of this. We only made 300 cases of this wine.
Oh, wow.
But it's meant to enjoy and lay down for a little bit, even though it's a 2017. And it's just I love this wine, if I say so myself.
This is my favorite wine. They're Italian blends. I just love how that whole palette just complements each other from start to finish. And it is just a spectacular representation of how different varietals, Italian varietals, can grow up here. We experimented, I should say, Dad experimented with a grape called Negro Amaro. That's not widely grown, but it's an Italian grape from Puglia, the Puglia region, the heel. And we grow it here on the property, and it's just spectacular. It's just amazing. He took a chance. Daryl Cordy in Sacramento is a famous grocer, said, you know what, you have Primitivo, you should really plant Negro Amaro. And although the Negro Amaro is not in here, we bottle it and sell it on its own, a little bit of a blend there. But like, it just has that Italian, you just can't believe it. This is from the foothills of California.
Oh, this is incredible. This is, a little trip to Italy.
Yeah.
I have a Negro Amaro in my cellar somewhere here. I was just gonna, I can't figure out where it would be, but
we'll buy it back from you.
Yeah, we're bottling the 2019 in a couple of weeks. I do have to say, I mentioned, you can see a little bit of the Italian theme with the reds here. A lot of wineries up here. Our region has started to get a little bit of or has for a while. A lot of people know the wineries up here for the Rhone varietals. Our vineyard sites. And I don't know if it's partly just my personal taste of the wine, but I have not liked any of the Rhones that grow on our vineyards. I like all my neighbors' wines. Their Rhones are great. But over the time, I have not loved the Rhone varietals, and I pulled them out of our vineyards, or my dad has done it. And I have found that for us on our particular site, which is also what's great about El Dorado, is, 2 miles away, another winery does some great Rhones. They don't do so well for us, but we do some great Italian varietals. And so that's part of the reason why we have this, because I don't know if my dad just knew. Yeah. But he just planted these Italian varietals, and they do great.
So delicious.
I think it's also one of those things about food and food culture. I mean, Fair Play up there, which is a sub area of your county, and it's a great appellation in its own, is great for Rhone varieties. I mean, it's very good. But, it's got a little bit more granity soil. Cabernet grows very well in that zone, too. Whereas the Italian little heritage there's a lot of people that found it, those kinds of old farms up there that have I's or O's at the end of their last name. They were Italian. And Italian food is it's a warm and inviting style of food. And you go to Italy, there's regional specific things about what kind of food you can get where. And it shows the diversity really of food culture. But I think that the vines you have planted there really show the diversity of what we can do here in America too, as far as
And it's not all Cabernet, by the way. As much as we all love Cab, but there's so many amazing varietals, and I love that you guys are experimenting with so many, like doing these blends. So many varietals that I haven't heard of. I mean, I am not a wine expert by any means, believe it or not, but I love exploring, and that just made me perked up my little ears. I'm like, oh, this is kind of fun. What else? What else is out there? To try it out. But speaking of food, because I'm hungry. I would definitely the depth of flavors in this, and sticking with the Italian theme, I would do like a nice penne with lamb ragu.
Ooh.
And little goat cheese, little crushed up mint would be amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Apparently it's Rate That Wine time, because it is getting down to the top of the hour here. I am so glad to see that everybody's having so much fun, but I'm gonna give this a 9.9. Almost a 10. Almost. Chris, what do you got?
I'm gonna go 9.8. I think it's amazing. I think that this really defines what a proprietary blend is. So you can have different parts and different percentages every year, but it has the name that you stick with. And there might be something that you find that you want to put in. Maybe Cabernet Franc would work in this. Who knows? But maybe just for that one vintage. But you have the ability to do it. But it has its signature style. It has depth. It's deep. It's rich. It's got a lot of things that are filling the mouth. It's really calling for those deeper, richer foods. But it could also be just served with those hard cheeses at the end of the meal. And you can have a great time with a cigar out by the fireplace. I
was thinking like a smoked Gouda, any like a smoked cheese would be really good with this. Definitely picking up something that would just like, it feels right.
Gorgonzola in this would be.
Yes.
So this is I really love this with the classic bolognese.
Yeah.
And I saw someone mention about the drying. They noticed the drying effect on their tongue, and that's they were asking about that. And that's the tannins, that this wine has that has more than the Barbera. And I think those a nice sauce like the bolognese helps to ameliorate that dryness a little bit. I love that characteristic of wine. To me, it tells it that this wine's going to age a while. It's going to go with some great foods. So yeah, I go with bolognese as my go-to with this wine, or a steak,
or a steak. Triple cream brie would be really, really good with this. In that fat component, kind of moisturizing your tongue.
Exactly.
I might do lamb kebabs. Just on the grill. Make sure they're a little juicy in the middle. Get that little char on the outside. And just serve them with all sorts of things at the table, during the summertime. This would be a great wine to pair it with.
Yeah. And I give this a 10 because I love, love, love the flavor profile of this, of all the different varietals that are in it. I also love, because this represents just like the pioneering spirit of the land that was settled here was by Swiss Italians. And then Greg Boeger came along and planted all these obscure Italian varietals, and now they're mixed together. And this just sings that kind of pioneering spirit. And it's just so unique to Boeger and so unique to the land here too.
Yeah.
So good. And you guys, I think you picked 3 fabulous wines as a great introduction to what Boeger has to offer. These are absolutely shining stars. I know you produce so many more, and it's always difficult to, like, when I come to visit, I'm like, I'm always going to leave something to try again, to try the next time. Always a little mystery. So it's going to take me a while to get through all of your varieties that you produce.
Yes.
But that's what's great about it, because it makes you want to keep coming back again and again and again. Really, really enjoy it. I see all of the commentary. A lot of people, their first time, being on CellarPass TV tonight, really enjoying it. A lot of people are asking you guys to do your cooking show again.
Yes, we gotta get back.
Apparently that was a hit.
Yes, so we usually set up here a Facebook Live, and we literally take the wine and pair it and make it with the wine, and you know, take you all the way through the cooking.
And you get me whether I'm grumpy or not.
Yeah.
So.
And it's real life. The dog barking, the kids coming in.
No filter. No filter.
No filter.
That is so fantastic. Well, we are coming down to our last 2 minutes. So I just want to remind everybody at home, you can book your experiences at Boeger at CellarPass.com. You can also book on their website. I'm hearing about these cooking classes. So Eileen, I really hope you post those on CellarPass when you do them again, because, you know, I think it would be super fun. I'm just so excited to hear about this. I'm like, I want to watch. We can do that. And talking about the experiences coming up. So stay tuned for Enchanted Evening, Woga, all of the fun summer series coming up. Don't forget to pick up your wines. If you're heading up to Tahoe, go up the 50 and swing by. It's really easy, and it's a great afternoon, no matter what. And I've really had a ball. We've put up their special offer down on the bottom, and you don't have to write it down just yet. You can replay this on YouTube later if you want. And of course, there'll be a little email going out to everybody who registered tonight with more information. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's been a blast. I hope you join us again. We will be back next week. We have Chili Davis of the Mets spring training, and we'll be cooking with Chili and Acumen Wines. So really fun. So if you're interested at all in food, wine, or baseball, or just because you're bored on a Thursday night, please join us. We'd love to have you there. And Justin and Eileen, it's been a hoot. I've really enjoyed spending time with you tonight. And Chris, thank you so much.
You got it. It was a pleasure to be with you guys. Justin and Eileen, I love the family, and I love what you guys stand for. It's a great thing. And every time I'm in the area, you know, I stop by because I love it.
And this is wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. This was a real treat. I really, really enjoyed this. I don't have to drive home now, for one. It was a great forum. Chris, it was great to see you again after it's been a while.
It has been.
Again, this was a real blast. I really loved it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful night, and we'll see you next week. Cheers.
Cheers.
Clink, 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 clink.